According to fans and critics alike, Backlash 2000 is the best pay-per-view of its year, which happened to be the most successful financially in the WWE's history. Many will state that this is one of the best pay-per-views of all time that's not a Big Four show. That is a lofty claim to make, and that's the purpose of this show, to take other people's opinions on one well-regarded show or another, or lesser so, and find out if they're validated against the annals of time. Because that is what I have to do here, and with a main event that could have easily been the headliner at WrestleMania the month prior, which happened not to be because storyline reasons, you'd expect it to do well. Well, there's only one way to find out, ladies and gentlemen, as we step in that time machine once more on a Friday Flashback adventure. Before we kick on, I have to mention something quite stark and apparent, that there are signs everywhere. I haven't watched an Attitude Era pay-per-view in quite some time, and it's really hitting me upside the head, realising just how many signs are in the building. There's 19,000 people, I think 3/4 of them have got some form of sign. How people can see through that deluge of paper, I've got no idea. I'd be asking for a refund if my seat view was impaired like that. That being said, it's a depressing reminder of WWE's draconian policies of now that they won't allow anyone with a sign that isn't vetted by their creative team. Ridiculous. But we're not here to go on about WWE's now versus Attitude Era mentality and the fact that they want to suck Attitude Era nostalgia dry. The fact is we're here to look at the show in the context of the show itself. And the other point that I mentioned is the fact that Deborah, yes, the woman most famous for being beaten up by Stone Cold Steve Austin outside of the ring, came back to a pop to do ring announcing, not as Lillian Garcia said for the whole event, but just for this opening contest. And I've got to say that she was really bad at it. It was so phoned in you could just hear it in her voice going, yeah, I'm just going to say their names and then I'll get a paycheck. It was really bad, and yeah, if you end up watching this pay-per-view again, just for this pay-per-view review, or maybe something else entirely, just for the shits and giggles of it, listen to her and tell me that she isn't getting paid just to do that. It's really, really bad. Even I could do a better job, and so could you. Now, speaking of the match in question, it was for the WWF Tag Team Championships, as the incumbent Edge and Christian defeated Degeneration X by the skin of their teeth off a ring bell shot to X-Pac in 9 minutes and 23 seconds, and I gave this match 2 stars. It was the kind of match you would expect to kick off a pay-per-view, not just in this era but many others, with 2 over tag teams, a crowd that were up for it, and overall a solid contest that came along with it. Now, both teams utilised cheating tactics to gain the upper hand, one succeeding more than the other, and you would say to yourself, hold on a second, why do you say both used cheating? Well, X-Pac heat changed the course of this entire contest. DX were meant to be the faces, of course, and Road Dogg got cheered for his monologue at the beginning, but they immediately started chanting X-Pac sucks. What? Yeah, at least one part of this team should not have been booed, but it meant that the match changed with it. Okay, it had a steady fluctuation between slow and fast pacing, with a good amount of momentum shifting to keep it alive and kicking, and they both looked equal, but the contest had an identity crisis because, again, like I mentioned, the crowd booed both teams. Okay, when Road Dogg was in the ring, they didn't, and that was a bit interesting, but that's not the point. It meant that the storyline dynamics, especially when you consider that DX would break up within a couple of months, the fractions were technically starting to appear, especially knowing that they lost this contest. And they didn't play it in. And they were doing heel tactics against Christian, who was meant to be the heel. It kind of warped everything to where I was really uncertain where it was going to go, and it meant it lost a lot of depth in the process. And that wasn't good at all. So it meant that it felt a little flat and it wasn't given enough room outside of standard tag team action for expansion purposes, but it was a decent start to the evening. And I'm happy overall, on top of the fact that it was a 2-star match to kick off the night, that Deborah was not announcing for the rest of it. Because like I've said, what a phoned-in performance. This match wasn't. It was a good standard tag team match that just needed a little bit of an oomph right up its backside to get into better standings. But a 2-star match to kick off the night is not a bad thing. Let's just hope the momentum is kept. We follow that up with the best match on the entire card, and it's coming from a place you may not actually expect. The Light Heavyweight Championship, as Dean Malenko retained his championship against Scotty 2 Hotty following a top rope DDT, of all things, which you do not see often enough. After 12 minutes and 59 seconds, and it receives, ladies and gentlemen, the grandiose rating of 4 stars. Now, you would expect a Dean Malenko match to get that, because the man's reputation does precede him immensely. But from Scotty 2 Hotty and the Light Heavyweight Championship, 2 things that are never usually associated with greatness, it's perplexing, surprising, and utterly amazing in its own right. The match revolved around Scotty's resilient fight to win the title back against the methodical technical prowess of the champion as he wore down the leg to prevent the worm happening, and in some attempts to steal the victory from the plucky babyface, just like he did to win the championship a few days prior. It was fast-paced yet fluid and shifted momentum with ease thanks to multiple counters and reversals, which against all logic made Scotty 2 Hotty look like he was amazing. On top of that, he kept toe-to-toe with Malenko like he'd been in the business for decades. It was insane. And of course, okay, I can understand Malenko dominated periods of it and wore down Scotty. You'd think the crowd would lose interest, but they were willing him on. They wanted Scotty to win. They wanted him to win that championship back. Because 2Ku were over as hell, and Scotty came out to a massive pop, and they wanted the young guy to win, and unfortunately it just wasn't the case, but it lasted just the right amount of time to where it felt like a breeze and not sluggish on any occasion, and it was very entertaining to watch. And it ended, oh my god, with a move you do not see often enough, and I'm happy we don't, because if we saw that today, not only is it dangerous, but my god, it hits an exclamation point. We all thought, oh, how's this match going to end? They both look so equal. Is he going to hit the cloverleaf? No! Malenko hit a move so devastating that even the audience realised, okay, that's it, he's done. And that's the good thing about an impact move like that. It did its job. Now, the fact is, while Scotty no-selling the leg that Malenko worked on throughout while executing the worm was a low point, the match still retained my interest and, well, considering the technical prowess we saw, it was going to. The body psychology, it was going to. The pace, it was going to. And the crowd reaction, it was most certainly going to. This match is still a showcase that technical wrestling can survive in the Attitude Era. Many people said, oh, it was all about the storylines and the sex appeal and the craziness. There was some technical wrestling nestled within all of it, and this is a testament to it. It is a very underrated match. And if people know what it is, if people know that this match exists, then you have to give them a high five, because my god, it is worth watching again. Go check this out if you haven't, it is well worth your time and effort. And it's without a doubt Scotty 2 Hotty and Dean Malenko's best matches in WWE bar none. Next we return to tag team action as Buchanan and the Big Bossman defeated the Acolytes after 7 minutes and 41 seconds off a superb leg drop from the top rope and a nightstick shot to the face. It was half a star's worth of match. Now many of you are thinking, well, these two are big brawling teams, surely this could be entertaining. It would have been. The match bucked expectation by being regimented and more wrestling orientated than the all-out brawl that these two burly teams would have been expected, and they benefited from that slightly thanks to a faster pace as a result. But thanks to Buchanan and Bossman dominating large stretches, it slowed it down and it became a crawl and a slog that only had the over nature of the APA and the simple tag psychology keeping it going. It was a match that felt like it could have been placed further up the card to be the bathroom break between one of the bigger matches, and you'll see what I mean right on the top of the card, because the IC title and WWF title matches are back to freaking back, ladies and gentlemen. And honestly, it was too early on in the card for me, and many others, meaning that after what they'd just seen between Malenko and Scotty, it was just a complete and utter disappointment, because there was nothing to really gain from this. And it wasn't the most fun match I've ever seen, but at least it had an ending that reinforced the heels and didn't make them look weak after dominating a match for its entirety. WWE, you could learn from your frickin' matches nowadays. You need to make the bad guys look good even in defeat, because then we won't take them seriously. You don't need to have them win, but if they're going to win, at least make their dominance count for something, right? But after a good start, the evening has hit its first stumbling block. I hope it's its last, but knowing it's an Attitude Era pay-per-view, I'm not holding my hopes up high for much. After that, you'd expect it difficult for the pay-per-view to regain excitement, and people will be disappointed throughout. Here's the thing, when you have a six-pack challenge for the Hardcore Championship, you're not going to be disappointed by much, are you? As Crash Holly defeated Taz to retain the championship against all logic and sense after 12 minutes and 20 seconds. Now, I'll explain why in a second that I've said that, but in even more shocking terms, this contest received 2.5 stars, which is something that this championship of the hardcore variety would rarely ever reach the dizzying heights of. Now, the rules of this contest were that the 5 challengers could only pin Crash, whilst Crash could pin anyone. Now, many would think that rule is quite weird, but it helped this match to no end, immensely building up its psychology into something fun, because Crash was the proverbial punching bag of all 5 people, including his cousin, which insisted that if he was going to win, it would have to be some sheer luck to do it. And the amount of pinfalls that were broken up to beat up Crash some more because he's an absolute arsehole for instigating a 24-hour rule and getting the championship off of literally any tactic he could, it made valid sense to have Crash be the proverbial punching bag and get beaten up beyond all sense. It was fantastic, and it made this match a hell of a lot more interesting. However, momentum sloppily shifted so much that if this was a drinking game, you would have died of alcohol poisoning and been on a morgue's table faster than you could say, "Oh hey, that guy's now got offense in this contest." Some of you probably are already in hospital right now because of that. Sorry about that. But weapon shots in the occasional risky spot, such as Matt Hardy jumping off the set and Perry Saturn gourd-busting, yes, gourd-busting Crash Holly through said set, along many other weapon shots, ensured that it managed to retain interest, despite the fact that it felt extremely disjointed, erratic, and extremely over the top. But at least everybody got their shot in, and it was unpredictable, because by the end you were thinking to yourself, even if you knew the results, would Crash Holly really come out on top? He did. There was still a lot of fun and intrigue to find from a match like this, which usually people who love technical mat wrestling and psychology like myself will say that this kind of match is very, very bad and appalling. The fact is, there was just enough, in fact a good amount of story, it was fun, it was interesting, it was fast-paced and frantic and exciting, and this is the thing. I can love psychological, technical, mat-based wrestling any day of the week, but if something puts a smile on my face and does the job properly, enough for me to warrant nearly an average rating of a match I never expected, then logically you'd think that anything's possible. This contest was a bit of fun, and it really re-energized me after what we'd saw prior, so in the broader scope of things, this match may not have mattered, and honestly, it may have made Crash Holly's star shine ever brighter, but that being said, it was just the kick up the arse that this pay-per-view needed after the stumbling block that came before it. Let's hope that this night gets on a nice steady run to the finish line, while also highlighting that the Hardcore Championship never actually reached a height like this again. It never did, and it didn't really do that beforehand, so if I ever rate a Hardcore Championship match in the future on this show, and it gets above 2.25 stars, I'm going to be amazed. That being said, well done to the 6 men on show here. You really did a good job. Next up, we had The Big Show defeating Kurt Angle on a paltry contest that lasted 2 minutes and 57 seconds. The thing is, ladies and gentlemen, that may spell 0 territory. I gave it 1 star. Oh yes, I did. The thing is, you may say that you're being absurd, you're being crazy, and you're being wrong. Then again, remember who's analysing and rating these matches accordingly? Oh yeah, that's me. And it's also my spectrum and criteria. So if you want to take my criteria and utilise it for your own rating measures, go ahead and ask in the comment section and see if according to that it rates along so, in your opinion, I'm not gonna stop you. Anyway, the fact of the matter is, it was a squash match. It was nothing really special, and on paper it was just there. But there was enough going on in it where I just couldn't hate it. You had a squash match that had the crowd invested, and the match's story and psychology made sense given how Kurt Angle believed himself as ultra serious, while Big Show, being fun and wanting to just let loose a bit after being this towering, dominating giant for a year, he wanted to have some fun in the sports entertainment goofiness. And also show that underneath that goofiness is a person you don't want to piss off. In the story terms of what this match was trying to do, in making Kurt Angle's words come back to bite him in the ass, this match did its job. And on top of that, you also have the massive nostalgia pop of a Hulk Hogan music. A Hulk Hogan music, let alone impersonation and impression. Big Show got everybody on their feet. Mostly because holy crap, that impersonation was so on point, it had me in stitches as to how bloody good it was. Then you had Kurt Angle kicking out of the leg drop, which is a massive stickler to Hogan. JR say they haven't cheered Hogan in years, even better, and of course, working that sodding leg to get the giant down to size. It all played in, and the pace as well. It was frantic, it was fast, it was quick. And the thing is, for the time they have, it did its job. You can see now why I gave this 1 star. It may have not been worth the hype, but man was it fun. It wasn't the best match ever, and that's why it gets a 1 star rating. It was poor in the scale of most other matches, but I enjoyed it enough to where it's not going to get in 0 to 3/4 of a star territory. And not to mention that, if any of you at the time said that Kurt Angle was being buried for the past 2 pay-per-views, here's the thing. He won the King of the Ring 2 months later and won the WWF Championship in September, while Big Show's momentum was back on track. This match did all it needed to do in the smallest amount of time, yet that's explaining itself. It did very little, but what it did was so well done, I had to give it some praise where it needed. Now, it wasn't going to be Big Show Brock Lesnar territory where it was going to get 1.5 to 2.25 stars, because of what amazing work it did. It's not that kind of match. But that being said, how can a 1 star match be so enjoyable? Because they did what was necessary. It wasn't the greatest match on paper, no, but I still came out of it smiling. And it looked like Big Show was having a ball as well, coming out to Hulk Hogan's music and impersonating him. The crowd were loving it. And that impersonation, I've just got to say it right now, if there's anything you have to see coming out of this match, it's that. The contest is only 3 or 4, 5 minutes, including build-up packages, of your time. Not to mention Kurt Angle's promo beforehand, ripping on politicians, was pretty good too. So yeah, for entertainment value, this match wins. But for actual technical match quality, maybe not so. But this just implores me to say to you all, don't judge a book by its cover, because it could end up surprising you, and just like Kurt Angle, bite you in the ass that you ever thought otherwise. We follow that up with the 3rd tag team contest on this card, as TNA defeated the Dudley Boyz of a Trish Stratus distraction in an eye-wateringly boring 11 minutes and 4 seconds, as Bubba Ray got the last laugh, putting Trish through the table to finally get his lust out of his system. As it was noted many times, Trish got word. Euphemism! Yay! Oh, I'm happy we don't get to see this stuff nowadays, because it would be sickly. Here's the thing. This match got 1/4 of a star. The worst on this evening. You thought that Bossman and Buchanan versus the Acolytes was going to be the worst thing on this card. Oh, hell no. Because this is taking the biscuit, eating it, and then spitting it back in your face. Because while this had the underpinning of a tense story between Bubba Ray and Trish, which was enough to say that there was some psychology in the match, everyone else just got dragged along with the ride, and it led to a contest that just had no real quality to it at all. It relied on paint by the numbers, face imperial tactics, as it floundered and stagnated. It couldn't engage with the crowd outside of when Trish was involved. And that's 11 minutes. And this is a tag match that had a build-up package. What? This should have been important, but it didn't bloody feel like it. The fans were patiently waiting for Trish to get some comeuppance, or wood, as the commentators, King especially, could not bloody say. or stop saying. This is the thing, they were waiting for that payoff and it didn't come until after this laborious watching experience, and it bored me senseless and left me unsure why it went for so long and yet had so little going on in it. It was really bad. It felt like a waste and did not deserve the hype that it got beforehand. And the build-up package itself looked like softcore porn, and if you know me, I do not like that kind of stuff in any form. So to know that made me seriously uncomfortable, hoping no one was going to walk in to the room and see it on screen. Because it would have really freaked them out, and it would have freaked me out too. So here's the thing. This match had a little bit of psychology, a little bit of pace, and that was literally all it had to get off the bottom of the pile. It had just enough in the small schematics of things to get off a 0. It was so close to a 0, I would have happily given it. It just about got off by the skin of its teeth. And I'm not saying that about the whole fans though, they probably were doing that in the crowd because Trish's implants were there. The fact of the matter is, this match was nothing. You don't even need to watch it. I could have given it a 0, but I feel very kind that it had just enough time to go the distance if it had some substance, the pace to do its job, and the psychology, just in the smallest minuteness to make the story worth its weight for the highlight package. That's all I gotta say. And the only good thing that came out of this, the neck injury that Trish got through the table, set up her feud with Lita and the Hardy Boys that made Fully Loaded's match with TNA so good. That was a 3.25 star match, yet 2 to 3 months prior, this happened. Yeah, I'm just saying it right now, folks. This was not worth the time at all, and I hope WWE realise not to give them the same type of treatment again. Then again, they did, so maybe I should be disappointed. And speaking of Lita, she was in the corner of the former Mr. Aguirre, Essa Rios, as he went after Eddie Guerrero's European Championship. And he was not successful as Latino Heat and Mamacita Chyna walked out victorious after a long 8 minutes and 43 seconds, even though the 9th wonder of the world got stripped down afterwards, much to the fans, King's and Eddie's delight. Here's the thing, I gave this match 3/4 of a star. Now this was a match though that should not have gotten that rating, because despite having good athletic pace and moves that made the crowd get somewhat excited, and me included, there was just little else for the match to rely on, as it somewhat was enjoyable, but empty and soulless, as Chyna and Eddie could barely give this match a story to work with here. Because it was all about them, and Lita was involved too, and the fractured relationship between her and Chyna should have played a more important role. It was in the build-up package. Yes, this got a build-up package too. What? And this is the thing. Chyna and Lita, Eddie and Chyna, and Essa Rios trying to prove he's that damn good in the ring by going for a championship against a guy he knows pretty well from Mexico. Yeah, there should have been a lot more in this. Yet it just floundered and felt unbelievably shallow for a match with 2 superb athletes in the ring. And it should have had story compounding what this match needed, and it didn't. Lita and Chyna's relationship should have made this interesting from the outside, but it didn't really. And honestly, what Chyna and Lita were doing mattered more than what the men were doing in the ring. And the fact that it wasn't even played into the story really made me disappointed, and it compounded this lifeless feeling that the match had. Even though the pace was electric and some of Rios's moves were incredible, especially that plancha over the top freaking rope to the outside. And I don't mean the top rope, I mean the top turnbuckle and ring post. It was insane, it made me jump out of my seat. And it meant that this match had a lot of small ingredients that, if just spiced up to hell and back, the crowd would have been into it, and I would have been more so, and it would have been a really, really good contest. Sure, they had good work rate, but for me, that's not what matters. The work rate only matters if the story and the pace come together. And that's the thing, it didn't, folks. It was another painful reminder, ladies and gentlemen, that the lower mid-card and tag team divisions, despite having the talent in this company, were not given enough substance to work with here. And it annoys me, because this could have been extraordinary. It could have been. It could have been a sleeper hit on this night, but instead, I'm left to rate a match worse than it ever should have, despite the athleticism involved, and that is not a good thing to have on the mind. Now we get to a match that I was looking forward to and hoping it lived up to expectations given their matches in the past. Chris Benoit defending the Intercontinental Championship against Chris Jericho. A hungry Chris Jericho at that, doing so off a DQ following a headbutt being countered with a belt to the face and a busted nose for equal bloody measure. Now this contest, considering these two, was going to be good. I expected greater, and then got 3¼ stars as a result. Now they fought with the fluid offensive momentum shifting that was needed and expected given that their knowledge of each other is out there, and they looked about as equal as they could, with aggression and desperation building as the match wore on. Benoit hit the psychology by working Jericho's chest throughout, and of course highlighting that Jericho sold it like a boss too, as neither man, through their resilience, could be put away regardless what punishment was given, creating a tense match that reflected the crowd's quiet but occasionally spry inspiration and appreciation for it. However, it caused the match to lose luster at peak moments, as a reaction would have been needed to amplify the quality that was on show, and was ultimately let down by it. The psychology, though, was very simple and effective, even though the finish is a little suspect. It makes sense considering Jericho's desire to cause the crippler some pain and disregard the rules thanks to his boisterous and rebellious personality, while also making Benoit's cool-headed and intense demeanour pay off really nicely. It came out of the blue and stopped this match right as it was reaching its apex. However, like I said, the match could have been great if the crowd investment made it better, because it was all that was missing from an otherwise fun and good match as a whole. I don't really need to explain that much, do I? You know these two are going to put on a decent offering, and the rating reflects that thusly. Finally, we reach the main event, where honestly, given the hype, given the star power involved, it should have main evented WrestleMania last month, but it didn't. I mean, the Fatal 4-Way match was great. I personally enjoyed it, but with all the story that went around in that, it could have been even better. But instead we get it here, and that's perfectly fine by me. As the match went down with all the cards stacked against him, it looked impossible, but this is wrestling. The impossible is never an option, as The Rock regained the WWF Championship for the first time in just over a year, because the last time he held that belt was WrestleMania 15 against Stone Cold. And the crowd lost their minds at seeing the now babyface Great One hold that championship again, and he pinned Triple H following interference from Stone Cold to make the storyline implications ever more weird. Oh yes indeed. Following 19 minutes and 24 seconds of story-driven insanity that I'm giving 3¾ stars to, because it was that damn good. Here's the thing though, this match was not a wrestling contest in the strictest technical athletic terms, but it was sports entertainment genre soap opera at its absolute finest. It was extremely fun watching the McMahon Helmsley faction in their attempts to screw The Rock at every turn. As the Brahma Bull fought back and swung momentum in his favour, he just would not quit. And it happened for most of the entire contest, with the crowd eating it up in their droves, as the story took twists and turns and added anticipation and tension, to where even if you were watching for the first or 100th time, you still get enveloped in it all, even if you know where the result goes. Because that says a lot. Even if I know that The Rock wins it, and yet I still get into it, that is a good thing. That is a positive that we should all look out for. Now sure, the pace was sluggish due to how the story impacted the wrestling quality, and most of the moves did not matter, outside of the double rock bottom through the announce table, which made the crowd lose their shit even more. But it's the thing, athleticism again was not the selling point here. It was about revenge after what happened at WrestleMania to The Rock, and the rattlesnake biting to ensure his venom stung long after he left the building, leading up to the hype that had gone a long way into the small hours, saying that Austin wasn't going to be here, while he arrived, making the biggest impact possible. And this is the thing, the fans were left happy, I was left happy after it. You couldn't have asked for more. It was an atypical main event of what you would have expected from a WWF match at the top of the card, with emotional investment carrying it all the way through, making up for a lack of athletic prowess throughout. And of course, the chemistry of Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson and Paul "Triple H" Levesque, with sprinklings of Shane McMahon, Vince McMahon, Linda McMahon, Earl Hebner, Briscoe and Patterson, and Stone Cold, of course, all together made up for the lack of athleticism. That's how important this was, that a match that didn't really have a lot going in it technically in-ring could still be really fun, have a nice load of pace to it, have psychology out the ass, and also have the crowd on their feet. It had little pieces where the crowd weren't involved, where the pace was so sluggish I had to knock points off, and where my enjoyment and the psychology didn't quite align. There wasn't enough body psychology for one, and there was no blood either, considering the damn chair shots we got in this thing. But here's the factor. They are minor things that take it away from a certain, 4 1/4 star rating at that. And the fact is, it may only receive 3 3/4 stars, but I am still enthusiastic. I am still happy as hell having seen this, because after the event has thrown up a few duds, who weren't outright duds I may add, it's given me 2 matches at the end of the night that were very, very fun. Very, very enjoyable, but for 2 completely starkly different reasons. And that's what a pay-per-view should do. Offer up excitement to the wrestling fan in all its glory. And with that, ladies and gentlemen, let's go on to my final thoughts and see whether this show has lived up to its high, high expectations. This pay-per-view, much like Fully Loaded 2000, highlighted the Attitude Era at the height of its powers, featuring intense storytelling and emotional investment in the main event matches, while having extremely competent wrestling, outlandish gimmicks, and incredible storylines that you would not even believe would happen in its wake. From top to bottom, the best this show has to offer is nearly nigh on fantastic and consistent quality, to where those positives in those qualities are made even more apparent. However, at its worst, they either don't live up to potential or flounder in obscurity to where no footing can be found. They're not the worst of the worst matches, but they're so close you could taste that really, really bad mix down there. The thing is, it leaves me satisfied regardless of that, despite having an aftertaste that really isn't that pleasant. That being said, there are 3 great matches here, and 2 decent undercard matches that are just under average to make me say that this is a worthwhile venture to look at. It's a pay-per-view that's not as good as Fully Loaded 2000, hell, even in my opinion it doesn't even stand up to the Royal Rumble in 2000 let alone. There are quite a few pay-per-views in 2000 which are pretty good and stand up to the claim as one of the best of the year, or the best of the year. And the fact that this one hasn't reached those lofty heights like I expected is a bit of a bad thing. However, it is still a fun watch. It is still an enjoyable wrestling event despite some quite unspectacular moments in it, and some high packages that make you question why they were made in the first place. The thing is, it wasn't really rad, it wasn't spectacular. It was a very decent show that I enjoyed, and if you want to get your Attitude Era fix, this is the kind of show that will do that for you. It may not have the hardcore matches or the craziness, but it's a very interesting and very nice night of good wrestling to look at. And that's all I can say from a contest that I actually expected more of. The fact that I'm still coming out of it smiling is a good thing, as overall Backlash 2000 gets a score of 6.25 out of 10. Considering all the hype, I was expecting it to get less. But this shows that with good writing and consistent matches for most of the card, you have something good here. If only some of those matches like the European Championship match and 1 or 2 of the tag matches had just a little more meat, maybe we could be looking at a 7 out of 10 show here. Maybe or maybe not. All I'm saying is after WrestleMania 20, last time out, this is a nice thing to keep a consistent run of good shows going. However, knowing what we're going to get next month, oh boy, I am not looking forward to that, because outside of 1 or 2 matches, it's one that will crank up the heat and make you sweat, realising, oh good lord, what the hell did I sign up for? And that will all be revealed right after this video ends. So, with that in mind, ladies and gentlemen, the Backlash 2000 Friday Flashback review has been completed. So what did you all think of this show? Is it as great as I say? Am I a heathen for rating it lower than an 8 out of 10? Because a lot of you think these pay-per-views in the Attitude Era deserve to all be rated that, despite logic prevailing more so. Put your opinions down there in the comments section, I'd be glad to read them and hear them, and of course, if you do not want to miss out on next month's Friday Flashback, the date of which will be coming right after this outro ends, then all you have to do is click the subscribe button down there with the notification bell, do not forget that, to ensure nothing goes foul and awry. Not to mention, I'll be off at WrestleMania, WrestleMania 34 of course, and we still have some Wrestling Rant episodes to come between then. So on the wrestling front, you guys are going to be spoilt for content in the next week or two, or maybe even more, and I couldn't be more happy than to provide it to you. So, with that in mind, Backlash 2000, you may not be as good as many has said you are, but you're still fun to hang around with. And considering you're from a time period where many would balk and look at you and say that you're completely and utterly offensive to some, that's a very good thing to highlight and showcase just how nice you are to see. I have been Freddie Thomas, you've been people watching, this has been another Friday Flashback pay-per-view review for the CC Network, and I will see you all next time.